So if you had to give some advice to a photographer who's just starting out, whether they're your age or younger or older, but they're just hooked, do you feel like you could impart any sort of wisdom or I wish I had known type of information?
Sure. Don't get caught up in gear. Get outside and shoot photos. Don't think that any kind of answer you're gonna find to good photos is gonna lead you to Photoshop. That's not the answer. The answer is getting out and having the experiences that move you to make images. Awesome. You know, you say, oh, I'm not just gonna go camping. I'm gonna go camping out to this crazy lake and I'm gonna sleep in a cypress tree with my hammock and then I'm gonna light it up at night. Why? Because it's cool. How could you fail making good images, you know?
That's awesome.
So
you're saying plan the experience, not just a destination, I'm going to photograph X, Y, or Z, but plan an experience, bring your camera along, the image is going to show the story.
It'll present itself, yeah. It'll just hand itself over to you.
When did it take a turn? I like to say, when did it really spark in you as an art form? Photography becoming more than just documenting something that was there to something that really inspired you?
Immediately. It took me all around Florida. It took me to some crazy places just around my hometown that people who've grown up there for decades had never even known about. And I was really, really proud about that. I mean, I would wake up way before dawn because it was a 30-minute drive just to get to my high school, and I would wake up maybe like 2 or 3 hours before dawn and I would drive out to these lakes and these swamps and these wetlands around my high school. I'd slog around in these wetlands, shoot sunrise, and then show up to class right at first bell ring, like all muddy and sweaty and gross and like just feeling so stoked about it.
And how did you even find those places? I mean, how did you discover stuff?
Just following my nose. I mean, I would drive around or ride my bike and I'd say, huh, that's a big clump of trees, like that looks cool. Or, you know, this is an old lake system, I bet there's some neat wetlands around there. And so I would just go explore and follow my nose, and we found some of the most pristine areas of where I lived at the time. It was Gainesville, Florida, of Alachua County. And I'd come back and I'd show people, I'd show friends and family, and I'd show even county commissioners and land trusts. I'd show them these photos and they're like, where is this? And
wow.
Like, yeah, that's just, you know, right off one of the main roads here. They're like, way, it's crazy.
Take us way back to whenever you first picked up a camera. What camera was that? And tell us a little bit of the story behind it.
My first camera, I'll never forget it. I don't have it anymore, but it was one of those old metal body Minolta SRT 101s. And I would go out all the time, just in my backyard, just shooting photos, and I just loved it. I mean, I cling to it immediately.
Well, you may or may not have an answer to this, but I'm just curious with the journey you've been on and various places you've seen, the way you've been honing your craft. Do you have a dream job or destination or sort of a dream project 30 years down the road?
Yes. I mean, my dream project was the Everglades. That was a 5-year project. What that has kind of prompted is this much, much, much bigger project, and that's regarding America's swamps. But
awesome.
I'm working to kind of catalog the important estuaries and watersheds of America's southeastern swamps.
One of the images that sticks out in my mind is these little baby owls. You know which image I'm talking about?
Of course, yeah.
Speak a little bit about how you did that on a photographic level, and sort of what were you going for story-wise in that sense?
Right. So this is while I was working down in the Everglades, and I was down there for about 3 years. And we go out to helicopter sites. So we take a helicopter 3 times a month to go out to these remote areas of the Everglades and do fish sampling. And as we're taking off one day, we look down and I noticed that there's a road cone just sitting in the grass there. And I was like, well, what's that for? And my friend Luis says, oh yeah, those are the burrowing owls. And I say, what? You have burrowing owls here? I've always wanted to photograph one, you know, because you've seen photos of them with their little head tilts and, you know, they're really unique kind of cartoony eyes. So what had happened, they put these road cones out next to their burrows so that the landscaping company wouldn't come through and run over them, right?
Yeah.
So I was thinking, you know, I want to photograph these birds in a new way. So I didn't want to do the telephoto thing. You know, my style is kind of more in your face, wide angle, think of kind of unique camera traps or perspectives. So what I did after a lot of trial and error is I ended up getting a road cone and I cut out to make a custom hide for the camera. So the camera sat inside the cone. I placed it at the edge of the burrow. The owls were none the wiser. They flocked to the cone. They, you know, sat on top of the cone, sat around the cone. I'd leave my camera running with intervalometer, and then a timer, the 2-second timer set on the camera, so it would beep. So then the owls would turn and look. Get these really interesting
That's so
photos,
creative.
just like the birds and their cartoony eyes are just
Wow.
looking at the camera.
So you're in the field with your camera, and you just are overwhelmed with a sense of how alive you are.
I was in Honduras, and I lived in this little rural mountain village, and up the Cangrejal River. And as you drive up the main road, there's this 200-foot waterfall that cascades down from this primary forest. It's like primordial. It's very cool. And so driving up for the first time, I was like, oh man, I got to go see that. So I hiked out to that, and I got to stand underneath it. And then looking up, I was like, oh man, I got to stand on top of that. And then I was like, well, you know, it's facing eastward. So man, I really want to take a photo of the sunrise coming up over the Nombre de Dios mountain range, looking out onto the watershed below. And I had this whole grand idea how I was going to do it. So we returned back with my friend and brought climbing ropes and everything. My idea, right, was to rappel down halfway and get the sunrises coming up. So I started rappelling down, and this is, you know, 30 minutes before dawn. I get halfway down, and I can't see, and as I'm going down, I finally stop, and I'm down maybe like 30 or 40 feet, and I look down, and the rope is just dangling about 50 feet above above the ground. But regardless, I was like, crap, I'm in this situation. I've got my camera, sun's rising, whatever. I'm at least gonna make a photo
There
and
you go.
find it later. I had some extra cords that I was holding my tripod on with, so I reattached my tripod with another carabiner, made some prostic knots, and made the slow journey back up the rope. Feeling alive in that moment is an understatement.